It's time for another comparison of subcompact SUVs. We've got the new 2025 Nissan Kicks and the 2025 Hyundai Kona. Subcompact, yes, but a lot of space inside. A good amount of technology. Cars like this that are fully loaded deliver so much, way more than you'd expect. So let's go take a drive. The Kicks is brand new for 2025, and it's now in its second generation since the 2018 model year. The Kona was brand new for 2024. It's also in the second generation since the 2018 model year. Both of these cars are in a growing segment. More buyers want smaller, more affordable cars, but they're not willing to give up style, performance, or technology. Where the Kicks has more of a classic, mini British type of vibe, the Kona is entirely in its own orbit. For Hyundai, that includes having a very wide band of LED light across the top of the hood, echoes the back where there's a wide red LED band, and all the lighting is below. Very non-conventional, including the wheel choices. They're very large, and they're set against really a ton of black plastic cladding, very much like a Subaru, even though it's truly not that big of a car. I do like the Limited, the fact that it has a really nice wraparound piece of chrome, and the deck lid spoiler is not too aggressive. I don't think the Kona's looks are gonna last as well as the Kicks, but for right now, it's definitely catching my eye. The Kicks has the style that's gonna last more than just one generation. It has more of that pizzazz and flair of the first generation Juke that was here a long time ago. That's the type of car that I see in this new Kicks. The front grille is the new Nissan look, and I have to say it's looking really refined. You can find it on the new Murano as well. This 3-bar LED effect here, but it's also echoed on the taillights. It's a really clean look. And the fact that this car is even cheaper than the Kona, I think it actually looks a bit more expensive to start. This SR trim, a little bit sportier. You get the contrasting red roof and mirror caps, and these three-spoke wheels. They look like they're really straight off some kind of a futuristic Pininfarina concept from the 70s. It's here on a small SUV from Nissan. Everything that you see here, including along the back, where the rear C-pillar, how it arches up, there's 4 different elements here. You got glass, you got chrome, 2 different types of paint. It's a cool looking car, and they don't have to do nearly as much embellishment as Hyundai did with the Kona. Let's talk engines. Both of these cars have a 2-liter naturally aspirated inline-4, making about 140 horsepower, 140 pound-feet of torque, give or take. Not that much. A continuously variable transmission, and front or all-wheel drive. But the Kona has a special ace up its sleeve. It's the 1.6-liter turbo engine, which develops almost 200 horsepower. And for 2025, you can get the N-Line S. That's a cheaper, more affordable way to get the turbo engine than ever before. So it makes the cost of entry to get more power a lot better. But for fuel efficiency, well, you don't get it in either engine on this Kona. The Kicks really leads the way. It goes up into the mid-30s. The Kona cannot even top 30 on the highway. So for efficiency, it's all about the Kicks. If you want more power, it's Kona. The Kona accelerates pretty quietly, just like the Kicks. But there's definitely a lot more verb with this turbo engine. That's what makes this car not directly comparable with the Kicks, but the fact that you can order it this way and have a choice if you want to spend more money, I think that makes the Kona a lot more versatile to more people. But in terms of overall response, more direct feeling, you're getting a lot more of that in the Kona than you ever would in the Kicks. I also like the fact that there's paddle shifters here, because even though you're not going to really be ripping it in a Kona, it's nice to have the control and have some decent response time here. It really is good. The steering in the normal driving mode, to me, it just feels a little, I would say, slightly loose versus the standard setup that's in the Kicks. When you put it in sport, it firms up a bit. Personally, I would like a setting in between for the steering to be the default mode. The steering is really such a subjective metric, it really is. But I do like the Kicks better in that regard. It just feels more connected to the road, including when you're just making minor corrections on the road. The Kona does a really good job, especially compared to the last gen Kona, which felt a lot grittier and was so much smaller. This one feels like a grown-up car. And so does the new Kick. So both of them together, they've really matured a lot. The Kona has a balanced chassis. Now it's got a multi-link rear suspension as opposed to the torsion beam axle that you'll find on front-wheel drive Konas. The Kicks is exactly the same way. front-wheel drive versus all-wheel drive, same suspension setup. And I think it's the reason why both these cars feel so stable in the turns, and they always feel pretty planted. These are not performance cars by any means, but they definitely have the guts, really, to go around turns, make you feel confident, make you have some fun, too. What's the point of having a nice, sporty, small car if it doesn't handle well? No point, really. Between the two, the Kona seems like it's the more comfortable ride, seems a bit softer, just mildly so, but not as firm. Also just, again, off-center, a little looser. If I put it into sport mode, not snow, but sport, now the effort just seems a little bit more natural. And all the torque from the engine, I gotta say, it doesn't have to work as hard as that kicks. You really have to rev the heck out of that car just to go up a hill or change really any sort of momentum. In the Kona, especially with this turbo, it is a lot more effortless. So you'll find yourself just kind of breezing along at a slightly faster clip without really having to work that hard. I do feel though that my center of gravity here, where my hip height is, I just feel like I wobble a little bit more in the seat. Handles nicely, but again, there's a little bit more toss from side to side. It's minor, but the Kicks has more of a car-like feel. The Kona is definitely more of a crossover. I think though that despite the Kicks having sharper handling and steering, the fact that it comes with a turbo engine as an option, I gotta say the Kona, it definitely delivers. And when you get the N-Line, it's a little extra sportiness there too. But in this top limited trim, I mean, it's good. Yeah, it's a very enjoyable car, I gotta say. The exact same behavior with the Kicks applies to the Kona, even with the largest wheels and tires. The suspension is damped, it really is. There's none of that firm, like old European car hatchback that was really the big style for years. Every car from Europe of this size was always great handling, but it suffered in ride. It was horrible for comfort. And there's still a lot of the premium manufacturers that really dial up the stiffness to the point where really it's almost undrivable in some ways. The Kona and the Kicks are both really settled. Hyundai really has it down now. I gotta say, like, every new car I'm driving, is it perfect? No. The setup right out of the box, it's pretty ace. The Kona is more eager in the turns. It absolutely is. More power or not. But it rolls more, so it kind of takes away from it. Braking feel though, right on par. I would say that the Kona, slightly softer on the edges, but overall, I'm liking how I'm feeling in here. Okay, here we are, okay. Yes, this Kicks is slower than that Kona. That's not fair, that's a turbo, this is not. To tell you the truth, I've never driven the 2-liter naturally aspirated 4 in the Kona. So, I can't really tell you how that engine would be. I do know, based on all the output that the Hyundai has, it wouldn't really drive any different than this one. So, apples to apples, if you're getting the 2-liter Kona and the 2-liter Kicks, basically the same car. So I'm not gonna knock the acceleration here because it's actually pretty adequate for this class. A lot of cars have around 140 horsepower in this size class with all-wheel drive, CVTs, so really, just really average, right? But the engine sounds good, it doesn't sound gritty, it's smooth enough, and the CVT is responsive. There's no paddle shifters, there's just one low range here, which does help with engine braking. And you also have a few driving modes for sport. If you get the Kicks with all-wheel drive, they also add a snow mode, which is also kind of nice, but really All-wheel drive kind of does its thing, mostly in front-wheel drive, just like that Kona, except when it's truly needed. So these aren't really true SUVs with 4x4s by any means, but that's why they're also decently efficient. I would say the Kicks drives a little quieter, especially at highway speeds, than the Kona. There's still a fair amount of noise from these mirrors. They're very large. And the tires also, 19 inches on both cars. They're not small, definitely not. So that adds to it as well. But this one, maybe it's just because it's a little slipperier in shape and slightly smaller, a little bit more snug. I don't know, it feels like it rides a little bit better in terms of kind of isolation. But you're not going to get super quiet, comfortable cars like you would, say, if you're upgrading to the next couple classes from compact to midsize. But you're also not paying nearly as much money. And considering that this car is $32,000, give or take, fully loaded, I'm very comfortable for that price. See, that's where I'd really like to have a little bit of turbo punch coming out of a turn. Just makes things more exciting. That's where that Kona with the 1.6T really shows its advantage. And that's why I wish Nissan would throw their turbo 3-cylinder that it uses in the Rogue in the Kicks. It would give the Kicks some more kick. It really would. Gotta say it. They named it, not me. I didn't call it Kicks. I used to call this car Juke. I was calling this car the Juke this morning, actually. That car was really ahead of its time in terms of design. And ever since Nissan discontinued that, they kind of fell back. And with this car, especially how it looks inside while I'm driving it, I think they kind of set the bar again, especially for subcompact SUVs. When I drive this car, yes, I'm reminded that it doesn't have a lot of power. The Kona definitely takes up the power where I really would want it. But in terms of feeling like, hey, I'm in a nice car behind the wheel, this one really is the one that does it for me. The Kona just has a little bit more of a pedestrian look to it. It's not bad, but it feels more plasticky inside. I'm in this car, I could squint a little bit and think I'm in a Mercedes GLA. Watch that review if you think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. Body control on the Kicks, I think it's pretty good. Nissan has a special tuning software for the SR, that's the one I'm driving, that's supposed to kind of reduce the torque in certain situations, occasionally add a little bit of brake here and there to keep the car in the proper line. They call it tracing control. It's all well and good. Don't really think it's necessary or very noticeable, but it's a nice little extra feature that Nissan programs on this top trim. As for steering, I think the Kicks wins me over there. It does. Better on center feel, and I don't feel like I'm as tall either. I feel like I'm lower to the ground. In the Kona, it's a little bit taller, not much, but just enough where it alters your center of gravity and the way your body's leaning. In the Kicks, I feel like I'm more at one with the car. Neither of these cars are truly entertaining cars. They're not meant to be. But both of them really demonstrate what entry-level cars are now today in the United States. You pay around $30,000 for a new car like this, you're getting something that's sorted. It really is. All-wheel drive when you need it. Nice handling, right? Decent amount of grip, good ride. Like, cars were not like this when I was growing up. Cars were not like that 10 years ago at this price. Start to sound like an old man, but today's younger people getting into a car like this, and you don't know what you were missing back then, really. This is so much better, including when the ride is rougher, truly. On roads like this now where there's some ruts, I think both the Kicks and the Kona do a pretty commendable job of not sending every single shock into the seat, into your back. They're both really good in that respect. It's tough to call a winner there. Stable, it's sure-footed. Again, it's the steering that really comes alive with the Kicks. Braking is also pretty secure too. They're not very big rotors, but it's not a very big car. And to me, all the dynamics here work out pretty well. The Kona has the airier cabin, more knee room. This whole open console, while it's not really good for storing your goods out of sight, it certainly is great to access all the phone. There's plenty of shortcut buttons here, and really everything here, it just feels roomier than it actually is. That's a good thing. There's extra touches inside the Kona, like dual zone climate, which is standard on SEL and above trims, and 64 color ambient lighting all over the place, versus just a single bar that's only white on the Nissan Kicks. I do like the way the Kicks materials feel. Some of the plastics here in the Kona are not as good as they appear, but I do like the screens. I like the overall layout because it's just easier and more functional, especially with all these buttons for the climate control, the shortcut buttons, and everything here on the lower tier of the console. It's easier to access everything you need right at a glance. On the limited trim, the Kona comes with cooled front seats. You can't get that on the Kicks. And on SE and above trims, an 8-way power driver's seat does come standard. The Kicks may not have any power seats. They're all manual, but on this SR, there's speakers in either headrest that give you surround sound like I would hear in a $100,000 Infiniti. That's pretty impressive. It's way nicer than the Bose system on the Kona. Also, these seats are more supportive. I gotta give it to Nissan for that. And I would argue that the interior of the Kicks has more of a luxury car feel, the way these double screens integrate better into the dash, the way the dash and center stack are all connected and not as open. That to me, with this central tunnel, the gear selector that's more traditional, and all these really nice switchgear, including all the wiper stalks, really, this stuff is really small, but it matters. And I really like how it adds up, including the soft carbon fiber-like materials, the double color stitching across the dash and doors. They've done a very good job for just under 32 grand. Even though the Kicks has this center console, which doesn't make it feel quite as airy and spacious as the Kona, there's more headroom, about 0.6 of an inch, and another inch of extra legroom. There's 4 more inches of legroom. That's a very, very big deal. It's about the same headroom, but this whole back seat feels a lot more spacious. Rear air vents also come standard on SEL and above trims, and USB-C ports are standard across the board. I would much rather sit back here than the Kicks any day. The back of the Kicks has standard rear side airbags, and the panoramic moonroof is truly panoramic. It extends further back. But because of that, and even though this roof is scalloped, there's significantly less headroom. I also feel like there's less legroom. It's a tighter car back here. Plus, there's no rear seat air vents. Nothing. Cargo space behind the seats, 24, 25. When they're folded, 50, 64. However, if you get the front-wheel drive Kicks, particularly in the base S trim, you can get up to 60. But if you want a power opening and closing tailgate, you're gonna have to get the Kona. In the Kona, a 12.3-inch touchscreen comes standard, as does factory navigation, with some extra tiled information over here, should you desire. If you don't like it, you can swipe it. And finally, in a Hyundai, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on every single trim. That is a very big bonus. I just prefer how this tiled layout looks versus the Kicks. There's more information, truly. When you go into the setup, for example, look at all the driver assistance I can adjust here. It's using pictograms. All of this is just faster, easier to read. I don't have to go into the instrument panel. Everything here is just simple. I really like that. And to make things even simpler, shortcut buttons right below here, and all the climate controls as buttons. I do not have to wade into the touchscreen like I do in the Kicks. It's just more accessible, it's clearer. On tech alone, really, the Kona wins. The 12.3 digital instrument panel, not quite as full-featured as you'll find in the Kicks, but there's some nice layouts here. Kind of funky. It's really all it does. Despite having factory nav, there is no full screen map at all. Can't see it. But highway driving assist is on these upper trims. It's really nice. It works just like Nissan's ProPilot Assist. And what else? Well, on the Limited, you get blind spot cameras on either side. This is a great use of technology that more cars should have. So this instrument panel, despite not being as full-featured as the Kicks, has some nice hidden features. The Kicks has the same 12.3-inch display as the Kona, and it works pretty well, but there's no factory navigation. So all you have, which is a good thing anyway, is wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. That's there. You've got the Sirius XM, all that fun stuff. But really, there's no major settings to adjust. One thing that is on this top SR trim, the Bose Personal Plus stereo, which adds tweeters right in your ears. This is something that really only the Infiniti QX80 or Cadillac Escalade have, and they cost $100 grand. It sounds really good in here for a $30,000 car. So that's the one really cool thing that's in here. But otherwise, you can't adjust ambient lighting. You really can't adjust settings really at all. You have to go more into the instrument panel. So there's a lot less functionality here with the Nissan than there is in the Hyundai. Like the Kona, the Kicks has a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster that's on the top trims. Plenty of information available. It's actually better than the Konas because there's more information you can use. However, certain things like all these settings are only available here, whereas on the Kona, they're all on the main touchscreen. So that's really the only major difference. And both of these cars do not have full screen maps. I do like the fact though that you can change the meter view here. You can't do that on the Kona. So if you just want more space to see graphics and text, well, this is just a bit better. I do like that. So really it comes down to how much information you want to see and how much information you don't. Nissan gives you a better choice. The 2025 Hyundai Kona starts around $24,000. There are 6 trims. As tested, the all-wheel drive limited 1.6T was just over $35,000. The 2025 Nissan Kicks starts around $22,000. There are 3 trims, either in front or all-wheel drive, just like the Kona. As tested, this SR all-wheel drive was just under $32,000. A fair comparison would be this 2-liter Kona with the SEL convenience trim at $31,475. But even better is the N-Line S. That's new for 2025, and it's $33,000, and you get the turbo engine. So for not much more than this fully loaded Kicks, you're getting actually a lot more car with a Kona. Coming into this, I thought the Nissan Kicks was gonna take away the prize. It starts at a lower price, it looks really good, and fully loaded, it's actually a better value than a 4-cylinder Kona. But Hyundai has a special ace up its sleeve. It's the N-Line S. Not this particular trim, but for roughly the same price, you get a totally brand new powertrain, a turbocharged powertrain that elevates the Kona. And the Kona, across all of its trims, just offers more choice. There's more standard features like navigation and power seats across most of the trims. And the Kona here in top trim, yes, it costs more than the Kicks, but it's also delivering more, like cooled seats and other features that you cannot even get on the Kicks. But what do you think? It's a very tough call, and it really depends how much you want to spend. I just think Hyundai's warranty and the service and everything that it's offering at all prices edges the Kicks not by that much, but just enough to take it home. What do you think? Go to CarGurus.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and keep coming back. We'll see you next time.